Chapter 10 is a chapter that describes about the strategic executions or can be strategic implementations. Strategic execution is the implementations of the strategic plan in and the efforts to achieve the organizational goals. In the efforts to imbue the necessary of the information related to the informations of the process, this chapter covers multiple subtopics such as transitioning from the formulating to implementing the strategy, the needs for the clear annual objective, clear policy, allocate the resources and manage the conflicts, structure with strategy, type of the organizational structures, do's and don'ts in developing the organizational chart, the strategic productions and the strategy for the human resources of the issue.
Firstly, I will briefly explain about transitioning from formulating to implementing strategies. Transitioning from formulating to implementing strategy is one of the process where the organization transforms the style of strategy formulation to strategy implementation that requires transferring in responsibility strategies to divisional and functional managers. Due to that changes, the implementation problems can arise because of this shifting in responsibility, especially if strategy formulation decision come as a surprise to middle and lower level managers. Next is about the need for clear annual objective. Of course, as everyone knows that most of the organizations are really needed to know the clear annual objective in order to ensure that all the employer and employees have a clear direction to execute and implement the specific task successfully. What the annual objective should be? Annual objective are the specific measurable statement of what an organization is expected to achieve within an annual period. These are usually one part or piece of the organization's longer-term goals. Annual objectives are essential for strategy implementation for 5 primary reasons, which are: they represent the basis for allocating resources, they are primary mechanism for evaluating managers, they enable effective monitoring of progress toward achieving long-term objectives, they establish organizational, divisional, and departmental priorities, and they are essential for keeping a strategic plan on track. Chapter 10, with respect to strategy execution, there is also content related to the need for a clear policy. Policy are essential instruments for strategy implementation. Again, in all organizations need to have a clear policy to ensure that all employees do not violate the rules and regulations for performing certain tasks. Policy referring to specific administrative guidelines, method, procedures, rules, forms, and practice established to support and encourage efforts towards stated goals. Changes in a firm's strategic direction do not happen spontaneous on a day-to-day basis. Policies are needed to make the strategy work. Policy facilitate resolving recurring problems and guide strategy implementation. Policy help align actions and behavior with strategies. This minimizes conflicting decisions and practices, as well as creates a consistent pattern of action in terms of how the organization tries to make the strategy work efficiently and effectively. Policy facilitates solving recurring problems and guide the implementation of strategy.
Allocation of resources. Every company has at least 4 different types of resources that can be employed to fulfill its goal, which is financial resources, physical resources, human resources, and technological resources. The distribution of an organization assets between product, geography, and segment based on priority outlined by annual objective is known as resources allocations. Allocating resources is an important factor of the strategy implementation. Strategic management is also referred to as a resources allocation process. In organization which does not practice strategic planning, resources allocation is frequently based on political or personal factors, as well as bias rather than on rational analysis and research. Strategists should be aware of a number of problems that typically prevent effective resources allocation, such as an overprotection of resources, too great an emphasis on short-run financial criteria, organizational politics, vague strategy targets, a reluctance to take risks, and a lack of sufficient knowledge resource. Below the corporate level, there is frequently a lack of systematic thinking about the firm's resources and strategies, because program employees' control and dedications must breathe life into the resources allocated. Effective resources allocation does not guarantee successful strategy executions. Conflict management. Conflict is described as the difference between two or more individuals on one or more issue. Setting annual goals can cause a disagreement because everyone has different expectations, perspectives, demands, duties, and personalities. Miscommunications can arise between line managers such as production supervisors and staff managers such as human resource specialists. For implementations of the strategy to be successful, conflict must be controlled. Setting goals can result in conflict since managers and strategists must make trade-offs such as whether to prioritize short-term profits or long-term growth, profit margins or market share. There are three techniques to managing and resolving conflict, which is avoidance, diffusion, and confrontation. Avoidance involves activities such as ignoring the matter in the expectations that the disagreement will resolve itself or physically removing the disputing parties or group. Diffusions can include downplaying the difference between opposing parties while appeasing commonalities and shared interests. Negotiating so that there is no apparent winner or loser. Using majority rule appealing to a higher authority or rethinking current arrangement. Confrontation is by arrange a meetings at which opposing party present their points of view and negotiate out their disagreement. Mass structure with strategy. When a company's strategy changes, the previous organizational structure may become ineffective. Too many levels of administrations, too many meetings attended by too many individuals, too hard a span of control, and too many unachieved objectives are all symptoms of an inadequate organizational structure. Change in structure can help with strategy implementation efforts, but they should not be assumed to make a bad strategy good, bad management good, or bad product sell. Structure may and does influence strategy. Strategy must be implementable. Therefore, if a new strategy necessitates major structural change, it may not be an appealing option. Type of organizational structure. The first type of organizational structure is the functional structure. The functional or centralized structure is the most commonly utilized since it is the simplest and least expensive. A functional structure organizes duties and activities by company functions such as productions and operations, marketing, finance and accounting, and management information system. A functional organization frequently leads to short-term and narrow thinking, which may be detrimental to the firm's overall success. Second is the divisional structure. The second most popular organizational type is divisional structure, which is decentralized. Divisions are sometimes known as sectors, profit centers, or business divisions. As a small firm grows, it becomes more challenging to manage various products and services in a various marketplace. To inspire people, regulate operations, and compete successfully in varied regions, some type of divisional organization is usually required. Third is the strategic business unit structure, SBU. The strategic business unit structure organizes similar division into SBU and assigns responsibility and power for each unit to a senior executive who report directly to the CEO. This structural shift can help with the strategic implementations by enhancing cooperation among similar divisions and channeling accountability to the different business units. The last type of organizational structure is the matrix structure. Because it relies on both vertical and horizontal flows of authority and informations, a matrix structure is the most complex of all designs. Functional and divisional structures, on the other hand, rely heavily on vertical flows of authority and information. Because it produces additional management position, a matrix structure can lead to higher overhead.
Next, I'll be presenting on the do and don'ts in constructing organizational chart. So, the first one is to make sure the firm has COO. Instead of chairman of the board, make it the chairperson of the board. Make sure the span of control is reasonable, probably no more than 10% reporting to any other person. So, used as an SBU type of type structure for large and multi-divisional firms. Make sure the board of director reveals diversity in race, ethnicity, gender, and age. Decentralized using same form of divisional structure whenever necessary. Next, make sure every executive has one voice. So lines in the chart should be drawn accordingly, ensuring unity of command. Make sure the chair of the board is not also the CEO or president of the company. Also avoid functional type structure for all but the small firm. Next, make sure functional executives such as CFO, CIO, CMO, and HR officer report to the CEO, not the COO. Next, we should also make sure that only president of the division report to the COO. Make sure the CEO of the firm does not carry the title president. Reserve the title president for the division head of firm. So that's all for the do and don'ts in constructing the organizational chart. Next, I will explain about the operation and production issues. There are 4 operation and production issues. So the first one is restructuring and reengineering. Restructuring is reducing the size of company organizational structure in terms of the number of people, the divisions or unit, and the hierarchical level. Reengineering is rearranging or rethinking the works, tasks, processes in order to reduce costs, improve quality, and increase speed. Reengineering normally have little impact on the organizational structure or chart, and it does not indicate job losses or layoff. Second one is managing the resistance to change. The greatest threat to successful strategy implementation may be resistant to change. In an organization, resistance takes form of sabotaging the production machine, absenteeism, filling bogus grievance, and refusal to collaborate. So the third one is to decide where and how to produce good, rather than stockpiling the supplies for later deliveries. The part of material provided to the production site as needed. So the last one is about the employee stock ownership plans or ESOP. This plan provide organization with additional benefits. For instance, the significant tax saving, in addition to minimizing worker alienation and encouraging productivity. ESOP allow employees to work as owners, which is one of the reasons why the number of ESOP has skyrocketed. Next, I will explain on the human resource issue. So human resource issue regards with the employees or the workforce can make or can break a successful strategy's implementation. There are 7 human resource issues that have been discussed in this chapter, including the linking performance and pay to strategy, balancing work life with home life, and developing a diverse workforce, and then using caution in hiring rivals employees, creating a strategy supportive culture, using caution in monitoring employees' social media, and developing a corporate wellness program. So these issues are very crucial to be addressed in order to have a successful strategy implementation in an organization. That's all for me. Thank you.
In studying this chapter, we know that the process of strategic execution begins with the transition from formulating to implementing a firm strategy. It explains how the board of directors of a company should have diversity in races, ethnicity, gender, and age. If only one race dominates the positions, it will open the door for corruption and abuse of power. Strategic execution is the implementation of a strategic plan used to achieve an organization goals. A system is an organized set of procedures or principles, and managers can use this guide as the execution of the strategy. It is important that business strategies align with the company goals to help the business further its overall goals.
As the conclusion, the strategic education is needed in the organizational because it was involving the planning and decision making that can lead to establishments of the organizational goals and for the specific strategic plan. Also, it can be functional for the carry out the plans and policy. Strategic implementations is so important because it involves doing something instead of just talking or coming out with the idea. It shows the teams that the plan they are talking about can work and put them into actions. It's also a great way to build the teams and everyone can take a part.